Data visualization options in Google Analytics are quite limited. That's where Looker Studio becomes useful. You can connect it to GA4, pull data, and display it in various flexible ways. However, there are many things to learn, and in this video, I will help you get started. So, you might be wondering, why would you want to connect Google Analytics to Looker Studio? The answer is that there are many more visualization options available here. Because in Google Analytics, you basically have tables, funnels, maybe some charts, but if you want to build a more custom reports and maybe add multiple charts to the same report, you would not be able to do that. Plus, in Looker Studio, there are various templates that you can reuse and build reports visually the way that you want. So since there are some visualization features missing in Google Analytics 4, you can use Looker Studio to replace that. To get started, first you need to connect Looker Studio to Google Analytics 4. To do that, go to lookerstudio.google.com and then click Blank Report. Here you will need to pick what kind of data do you want to display in the report. And that can be done with the help of connectors. There is a bunch of connectors right here, but in this tutorial we are going to focus on Google Analytics. So click here, then select the account that you want to work with, and finally select the property. So click here and click Add. And that's it. Now you have connected Google Analytics to Looker Studio, and we can start building a report. Let's say that in this report, we are going to focus on revenue and traffic sources. Therefore, we will add maybe several widgets plus maybe a table that contains channel groups. To add an element right here, you can click Add a Chart, and then here are various options. So let's start with the table. Once you click the table, you can add it right here just by dragging and dropping, and this place will be taken by that table. On the right sidebar, you have various dimensions and metrics that you can use in the report, and the second column right here will show properties of element that you're currently working with. So since I'm working with a table, I see table properties right here. I can add multiple dimensions, metrics, and so on. So let's customize this table and display channel groups in order to understand where our visitors are coming from. So let's remove this dimension right here, click this X, and instead we can click Add Dimension and then select from here, or if you want, you can just drag and drop it right here. So I will click Add Dimension and then type Session Default Channel Group. I click here. Then I can remove this metric and instead add the following ones. Sessions, let's add that. Then Total Users. Then we can add Key Events, which were previously known as conversions. Then we can also add purchase-related metric, such as e-commerce purchases. And then maybe also add revenue-related metrics, such as total revenue, or we can add purchase revenue. Now, another thing which is not possible right now in Google Analytics is resizing. So we can change the width of the columns to make sure that each row is displayed properly. Then if you want, you can also customize the look of the table. So you can do that by selecting the element and then clicking Style. And here there are many and various options. For example, we can add a border shadow so that this table looks a bit more visible compared to the white background. We can also add text. For example, here we can add like a title of the table. So we can add a text element right here and then maybe name this channel groupings or something like that. We can also change the style here. Let's increase the font size, maybe make it bold and have something like this.
By the way, I release Google Analytics or Google Tag Manager tutorials every week. If you want consistent flow of fresh knowledge and to stay up to date, then subscribe to this channel. It will help us a lot.
Then we can add small widgets for the most important metrics. For example, the total number of users, total number of sessions, how those numbers are changing over time. So we can do that by adding maybe a shape first. And then inside that shape, we can add a chart, which is scorecard. So let's add that. Then let's change the metric to total users. So I will click here and we'll select total users. We can also add a sparkline chart. So this can be done by clicking here. And then we have to select the dimension, how that data will be displayed over time. So we will select by day.
And now if I resize this, I can see both the name of the metric, the value, and then the spark line right here, which shows the trend. So I can see whether the number of total users is growing or going down. We can also add a comparison date range. So click here and then select previous period and click apply. And now we see whether this metric is decreasing or increasing based on the previous period. Right now, the default is 28 days. So this percentage right here shows that compared to the previous 28 days, the number of total users has decreased. Then we can do the same thing with several other metrics, but maybe first let's fix the styling and spacing. So let's do like that. Maybe I will add a shadow to the box. And you know what? Maybe I should make the background a bit gray and then these boxes will be white. So first let's click anywhere on the background. I will select theme and layout and then customize it so that the background color is light gray, while this box right here will have a white background. So something like this. And then let's fit in the scorecard. So yeah, this looks okay. Now I can copy this. So I selected everything, copy, paste, which means that on my Windows device, I clicked Control-C, Control-V. And then here, instead of total users, I will click on this scorecard and select a different metric, which will be sessions. Then I can copy this and select maybe e-commerce purchases. So select here, then setup, and then e-commerce purchases. And then also maybe revenue. So select that, copy, paste. And instead of e-commerce purchases, in the setup, I will select total revenue and hit this. Then once I have everything, I will want to align this with the width of the table. So let's resize it a bit. Maybe I should also change the background of the table. So I can click here, then in the style, I can look for the background color and let's do it like that. Then I can also add some additional controls to the report, because right now, if I click view, there is not much that I can do here. For example, if I want to look only at the traffic of organic search, I could technically click here, but nothing will happen. So I want to add some interactivity to the report. Let's click edit, and here we have a section called add a control. I will click here and then I want to add a drop down list, because maybe let's say that this property operates on multiple subdomains and sometimes people want to look at the data only of one subdomain. So I will add it right here. And then I need to select a dimension. So in the setup, I will want to pick, instead of day, I will want to pick a host name. Let's also make this element white. So the background should be white. Then this report technically could be reused for multiple properties. So another thing right here is that we can add a dropdown where people will be able to select what kind of property do they want to view in this report. This can be also done with the add a control, and then we select data control. I can add it right here, then setup. And then here in the Google Analytics connector type, let's keep it as it is. And then in the data set type, we need to select Google Analytics 4. Then let's resize it, maybe also change the style and background to white. And then let's allow people to select different date range. So add a control, then date range control, and add it right here. Then let's resize it. And then let's change the style to white background. Now let's click view and we will interact with this report a bit. So if I go to host name, I see that the two main host names are these ones, which is www.analyticsmania.com and learnanalyticsmania.com, which is the course hosting platform. So I will select this, let's say, or I can just click only, and then I will see the report. So since sales are happening on my learning platform, obviously these two numbers show zeros. But then I could click here, for example, and select a different property, because I have access to various properties. Most of them at the top of the list are test properties, but I could also scroll down and pick one of my clients' properties, for example. Then we have date range. So I can click here and select, let's say, last 7 days, click apply. then maybe change the host name to all of them. And here we have the data. As you can see in the reports, the numbers also adapt based on the controls that I have selected right here. By the way, did you know that I have a bunch of free ebooks on Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics? So if you want to better learn these topics, then click the link below the video, download those ebooks, and get started. Let's continue customizing this report. So I can click Edit to switch to the editing mode. And let's say that I want to add a logo of the business. So this can be done by going to Image, then by URL. And then I will paste the URL of the logo, which is on my website. So click Insert, then like this, and maybe resize it and align it with other elements, something like this. Now looking at the channel groupings, I see how many sessions did I get, users, key events, but this column right here includes all key events, which means purchases, leads, and so on. Now, what if I want to focus only on a particular type of key event? Let's say just leads. I want to know how many email subscribers do I get from each channel group. So let's click on the table and let's look what kind of metrics do we have in store. So click Setup, then in the metrics, let's add metric. And if you add key, then you will see certain events. For example, we have key events and then the name of the event. So this metric will return the count of how many times this particular key event was completed. So let's add that. If you want to include session key event rate, which is like a conversion rate, you could also do that by selecting a particular metric. So if you enter key, then here we have session key event rate and that particular event right here. So now I can redrag it and add it after events, or actually after key events. Then let's resize the columns. And then here I have the column for how many leads did I get. However, this is not very user-friendly. I mean, the name looks kind of technical, so I could rename this to just leads. This could be done by clicking right here on the pencil. So you hover your mouse on the metric, click pencil, and then change it to leads. And this is immediately displayed in the table. So now let's resize the columns again. We could also technically shorten the name of e-commerce purchases just to purchases. So let's click here, purchases, and here we go. Since I mentioned session key event rate, technically we could also add it as a column to the table. So let's click the column again and then add a metric where I enter session key without a space and then generate lead, then redrag it right here. And then maybe I can rename this to leads conversion rate and then resize the table again. So as you can see, there's a lot of resizing. Maybe conversion rate could be shortened to CR, which is conversion rate. You can also add pages to your Looker Studio dashboards. For example, this page focuses on traffic sources, but if you want to build another report where you list your top selling products, you could click Add Page right here, and then you will go to the Report Pages section. So the first page is untitled, but you can rename it, let's say, to Traffic Sources, while the second one could be renamed to Top Products. And then here you could add other charts and tables to visualize the data the way you want. And then if someone views the report, they will be able to switch between those pages right here. Plus the sidebar can be minimized. Now let's go back to Edit and let me tell you one more thing. So when you're working with Google Analytics data in Looker Studio, there are certain limits or quotas. How much data can you fetch per hour or per day from Google Analytics? So this report is not very heavy, and if not many people are looking at this report, those quotas will definitely not be exceeded. But if you have a dashboard that is viewed by many people, then you might need to keep an eye on the token usage. And this specifically applies to Google Analytics. So somewhere on the background of the report, do the right click, and then Google Analytics token usage. So as you can see right now, this is the daily limit, this is the hourly limit, and this is how many tokens have I consumed already. So each widget, each report, it will use a particular amount of tokens. So if hundreds of people are looking at this dashboard, each time the report is loaded or the widget is loaded, that will use tokens. And if you exceed the hourly quota, then some of the widgets will stop working temporarily. So if you still want to continue working with this dashboard, then you can click Pause Updates. So if you click right here, and then you keep working, these widgets and tables will not be continuously fetching fresh data. This is helpful because if tokens are exceeded for that hour, your work process might be disrupted. So while you have paused the updates, you can keep editing, and if you want to fetch the latest data, you can click resume updates and it will fetch that. Then you can pause again and keep working on this dashboard. Once the report is done, you should obviously give it a name. So maybe something like traffic acquisition data, maybe the name of the brand. And the next step is to share this report. That can be done by clicking share right here, and you can give access to specific people. So you can enter their email addresses. If you want them just to view the report, then keep their permissions as viewer. Otherwise, you can make them editors. Then another option, how can you share this report, is by clicking this triangle right here. And you can also do a scheduled delivery, which means that, let's say, CEOs or decision makers, they will get this report sent to their email, maybe each Monday morning or based on another schedule. So this is definitely quite useful. Then you can embed this report on some website, or you can download a PDF where you can select either all pages or just particular pages. And then one more thing that I wanted to mention in this tutorial is filters, because right now, even though we have some controls added right here, what if you want this report to be filtered down to some value out of the box? And there are several levels where can you control filters. So let's say that we are focusing only on organic traffic. You can either set a filter on the level of each chart. So this table might have one filter, then this scorecard might have a different filter, or you can add a filter on the page level or on the report level. So let's start with the chart level filter. You can click here, then scroll down in the table properties and add filter. Here we can create a filter. We can call this, let's say, only organic traffic. You can also say that this is include filter. And we want to include only that data where session default channel group equals to, and then organic, and then click save. Or actually, I realized that the value is not organic, it's organic search. So I should go and edit that filter. And click save. Since I have paused the updates, the table does not update, but if I click right here, I see that now the table shows only that row right here. Of course, in practice, this does not make sense because my table just has one row. But if I filtered down, for example, to referral traffic, and then I was looking only at the domains, I could change the dimension here to display session source instead of session default channel group. So now I have added a filter on the table level or the element level, and all other charts still show data unfiltered. But maybe that's something that you want to achieve. On the other hand, if you want to apply a filter to all elements on this page, you can click page right here, then current page settings, and you can add a filter right here. Click add filter, and I already have a filter, so I can reuse it. I can click it. And now the numbers in all elements of the page have been updated. So this is the second level. You can add a filter on the page level. Now, if you have multiple pages and all of those pages should be using the same filter, you can go to File, then Report Settings, and also add a filter right here. So if your end goal is to have all pages filtered, add a filter here, and then don't forget to remove filters from individual elements or separate pages. And one last thing that I wanted to mention is that if you start sending some custom data to Google Analytics, you have to register custom dimensions. So you would need to go to admin in Google Analytics and then custom definitions, and then, click create custom dimension and register it right here. If you want to learn more about custom dimensions, I will post a link to a tutorial below this video. But the thing here is that once you have registered a custom dimension, it will not immediately appear in the Looker Studio report. So what should you do then if you want to use that custom dimension? So one way is to just wait. For example, you could wait for tomorrow and then maybe that custom dimension will appear. Or alternatively, you can try to refresh the connection between Google Analytics and Looker Studio. So you could do that by going to Resource, then Manage Added Data Sources, then click the data source that you have connected. So click Edit, and then at the bottom left corner, click Refresh Fields. So now it will tell me that there were no changes because in fact I did not change anything, but maybe in your case it will fetch that dimension somewhere right here. And from that moment, once you click Done and close this, you should be able to find that dimension somewhere in the list right here.
And that is how you can build your first Google Analytics dashboard with Looker Studio. Now go and explore various settings there, because I was just scratching the surface in this video. Remember, to benefit the most out of Google Analytics and Looker Studio integration, you should be familiar with the data structure of GA4. And to learn Google Analytics properly, take a look at my course. I will post a link to it below the video. If you found this video useful, hit the like button. That will help me understand what videos do you like and what should I create in the future. Also, if you want to learn more about Google Tag Manager or Google Analytics, then subscribe to this channel. My name is Julius, this is Analytics Mania, and I'll see you in the next video.